On July 26, 1971, in the Libby area near Englewood in Coos Bay, Coos County, Oregon, 3 juveniles were relocating horses between properties when they unexpectedly stumbled across a grim sight. The body of a young man was floating face up in the waters of Snedden Creek. They immediately contacted the authorities, who swiftly arrived on the scene. It was determined that the body likely belonged to a teenage boy, and because he, quote, almost looked like a frog in the creek, according to Captain Jason Patterson of the Coos County Sheriff's Office, the unidentified male was given the nickname Frog Boy as investigators began their search into finding his identity. Patterson also said that the nickname, quote, would stick in their heads, and maybe the next generation of law enforcement people who come through the office will remember that. The body of the newly named Frog Boy, also known as Coos County John Doe 1971, was badly decomposed, and he was found to be wearing a long-sleeved turtleneck sweater. Captain Jason Patterson further stated that, quote, his pants were found a short distance from him, and they are described as blue jeans laced up the sides with leather straps down the legs. They were of the Wrangler brand. Unfortunately, because of the severe state of decomposition, a post-mortem failed to determine the teenager's cause of death. However, they believed that he had died from 5 weeks to 5 months prior to having been found in Snedden Creek. The remains were believed to be those of a Caucasian male between the ages of 14 and 18, standing approximately 5 foot 4 inches to 5 foot 6 inches and weighing around 145 to 155 pounds. He also had long, light brown hair. According to Captain Jason Patterson, his colleagues, quote, investigated what they could. They canvassed the area, tried to talk to neighbours, tried to figure out who may have been in the area. Despite investigators' efforts, no information or evidence surfaced that could help identify the youth with the technology available at the time. Coos County eventually covered the cost of a burial for the unidentified teen in a local cemetery. Sadly, despite their efforts, the enduring mystery of the identity of Frog Boy would go cold. Laurie Merriam from Boise, Idaho, was only 2 weeks old when she was adopted in June of 1971. Laurie stated on NBC's Dateline that, quote, even as a little girl, I always knew that I had other parents somewhere that weren't able to take care of me and wanted me to have a better home. Her adoptive family were always open about the fact Laurie was adopted, and despite the strong love she had for her family, she stated, quote, I always stood out, and I didn't know where that came from or why I had the likes or dislikes, or why I walked the way I did, or the way I talked even was different. She was also very aware of how different she looked in comparison to her adoptive family. Quote, I've got red hair and fair skin. No one in my adoptive family does, so it's just like I never fully fit in with the family. She shared that from a young age, she felt a strong desire to discover her biological family. Her adoptive family, especially her father, was fully supportive of her search, which, in her words, really started when she was 12 years old. Laurie mentioned that she spent time reading books and utilising resources at the local library to explore the city index. By the age of 15, she had refined her search to focus within a 150-mile radius around Boise. Laurie further commented, quote, I had paperwork, some of my adoption paperwork that described the age of my birth mum, what she looked like, how many siblings she had. Her research had both her and her family confident that her biological parents were likely not city dwellers, and more so lived life rurally. Sadly, in 1987, when Laurie was around 16 years old, her adoptive father was killed in a commercial plane crash. The following year, Laurie was frustrated as she was no closer to finding her biological parents. She then decided to seek help in her family search and hired a private investigator. To Laurie's surprise, within just 24 hours, the private investigator uncovered numerous names from her maternal lineage, including her half-brother and that of her biological mother. That week, Laurie and her biological mother met for the first time. Laurie stated, quote, "That was a puzzle piece that was missing and just filled my heart. I can't even describe the connection." Delving into her mother's past, at just 15 years old, Laurie's mother became pregnant with her and was sent to the Booth Maternity Home in Boise, a facility that supported young unwed mothers. After giving birth, she returned home, her baby having been taken from her. Although Laurie's mother had hoped to keep her, circumstances prevented it. Laurie also shared with her mother that no father was listed on her birth certificate. Laurie spent the following Christmas with her biological family, where she was delighted to receive a special gift. It was a photograph of her biological father. Her mother told her that his name was Winston "Wint" Arthur Maxey III. Winston Arthur Maxey III was born on October 4th, 1954, in Rupert, Idaho. He was the second child and first son of Winston Arthur Maxey Jr. and Laureen Maxey, joining an older sister, Vicky, and 6 younger siblings. To avoid confusion with his father, he was affectionately called Little Wint by his family. Winston was often described as a sweet, shy boy with a big heart. Classmates remembered him fondly, and a friend recounted an incident where a second-grade teacher had to pull him out of his seat by his ear due to his stubbornness. One summer, despite his parents' inability to buy him a skateboard, he crafted one himself from scrap plywood. Known for being a well-behaved teenager who avoided drugs and trouble, he was generally considered a good kid. At 15 years old, Winston started a relationship with a girl he deeply cared for, and by the autumn of 1970, around the time he was turning 16, she discovered she was pregnant. His sister Marla told that she was one of 8 siblings, compiled of boys and girls in equal measure. As children, the Maxey family moved around many times. Recalling her brother, Winston, Marla said, quote, "He wanted to dance to his own tune. I mean, he was a good brother for the most part." Elaborating on this comment, she said that Winston had a tumultuous relationship with their parents. He was known to not abide by the rules set by them and, quote, "got mixed up in the wrong crowd, and as a result, he was known to run away from home." Marla remembered an occasion when Winston and a friend of his ran away to Oregon. However, Marla and Winston's parents forced him to return home. According to Marla, in 1971, their parents had grown tired of Winston's rebellion. They considered sending him away to work on a ranch. However, once this idea was vocalized to Winston, he ran away once more. Marla remembered her final interaction with her brother, who visited her at school. Quote, "He came and said he was leaving and said goodbye to me, and that was it. He was gone." Marla believed he would come home again, as he so often did after running away. However, Winston never did return to Boise. With no place to go, he ended up sleeping at a nearby campground. A few days later, his cousin learned about Winston's situation and extended an offer for him to stay at their home. In April 1971, Winston's girlfriend, who was 7 months pregnant, visited Rupert, Idaho. Although Winston tried to talk to her, she avoided him, knowing he wanted her to keep the baby. Soon after, Winston's older sister, Vicky, arranged for him to visit her in Boise. According to Vicky, Winston's stay in Boise was brief. During his visit, he learned from a friend about the booming logging and fish industries along the Oregon coast. Vicky recalled that Winston mentioned he planned to go to Coos Bay, Oregon, to look for work. This was the last time anyone heard from Winston Maxey. His sister Marla did find it strange that she nor her family ever heard from Winston again. However, their parents stated, quote, "He went out on his own. That was what he chose to do. And, there's nothing we can do." As a result, their parents never reported Winston as a missing person. Marla followed several avenues to investigate what happened to her brother. However, all were unsuccessful. Unfortunately, nobody else in the family knew what happened to Winston either. Relatives on Laurie's paternal line, who she managed to connect with, had all sorts of stories told to them about Winston's fate. Some say he ran away from home, joined a circus, or a rodeo. In truth, there were no indications or clues about Winston's whereabouts. Back in Coos County, Oregon, in 2017, the investigation into the identity of the John Doe known as Frog Boy was gaining some traction. With funding from a grant provided by the Oregon State Medical Examiner's Office, the department arranged for the remains to be exhumed. They recovered bone fragments, which were then sent for DNA profiling by Dr. Nikki Vance, Oregon State Medical Examiner. According to a press release, the DNA was entered into the NamUs database and analysed by Parabon Nanolabs. C.C. Moore, the chief genetic genealogist at Parabon, informed Dateline that the company has an ongoing contract with the Coos County Sheriff's Office to assist in identifying unidentified individuals. A profile was generated of Frog Boy that included details about John Doe's ancestry, eye colour, skin tone, hair colour, and facial features. Parabon Nanolabs then created a digital reconstruction of the deceased and what they may have looked like in life. After 3 months of hard work and dedication on the Frog Boy case, Cece made a breakthrough when she narrowed down her search to a single family. Quote, "All of the other brothers, I found proof of life after 1971, which is when the unidentified remains were found. Except for him. I had a name." She identified Frog Boy, or John Doe, as 16-year-old Winston Maxey. NBC News reported that a year prior, in 2016, Laurie Merriam submitted her DNA to Ancestry.com in hopes of finding a connection. However, she received no matches. She then created a Facebook page named Where in the World is Winston Maxey to seek help in locating her father. Additionally, she contacted the Idaho Cold Cases Facebook page, where her story was shared with thousands of followers. That year, Laurie also attempted to report her father as missing, but encountered challenges due to his absence from her birth certificate. She attempted to have Winston included in the databases of both the National Centre for Missing and Exploited Children, also known as NCMEC, and the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, NamUs, but was unsuccessful. According to a representative from NCMEC, Winston could not be added to their database due to the absence of an official missing person report filed with the police. Researching Winston's name, C.C. Moore found the Idaho Cold Cases Facebook page where Laurie had posted about her missing father. After making contact, it had to be confirmed through DNA that John Doe, or Frog Boy, was indeed Laurie's father. Cece encouraged Laurie to upload her raw DNA data from Ancestry.com to GEDmatch, as websites such as Ancestry do not share DNA information with law enforcement. The result was a match. After 50 years, it was a bittersweet moment. Laurie had finally found her father after a lifelong search. However, she sadly learned he was no longer alive. Laurie spoke of her reaction to the news of her father, quote, "He didn't even get to live his life, and here I am living mine. Man, it crushed me." Cece's company contacted one of Winston's sisters to provide her DNA, as they required a legal relative for formal verification. The sister agreed to the request and her DNA matched. Despite Winston's identification in 2021, there are many questions which remain unanswered, and the circumstances surrounding his death are unclear. Laurie strongly believes that Winston was murdered. She even changed the name of her Facebook page in August 2022 from "Where in the World is Winston Maxey" to "Who in the World Murdered Winston Maxey?" Laurie set up the Winston Arthur Maxey Foundation, an Oregon non-profit organisation that is dedicated to advocating and supporting Oregon families with missing loved ones. Because she was officially confirmed as Winston's daughter, Laurie was subsequently given his remains. Laurie continues to hold out hope for finding the answer to her lingering question: what happened to Winston Maxey? If it turns out he was murdered, she is determined to see justice served. The investigation into Winston's death remains open and active, with authorities possessing additional crucial information about the case, which for investigative reasons cannot be made public. Laurie told Dateline that it was possible that her father dyed his natural red hair a darker brown shortly before he died. Captain Patterson urges anyone who may have seen a young man resembling Winston Maxey in Coos County, Oregon, in June or July of 1971 to get in touch at 541-396-7820 or call the Coos County Sheriff's Office at 541-396-7800. Laurie Merriam gave an inspiring message at the conclusion of her interview with NBC. Quote, "The best thing that I would say that I've taken away from this is just to keep going, keep researching, keep pushing forward. Don't stop. It took 50 years for me to find my dad, and it's always possible you may not have the outcome that you would like, but there's always an ending, right?"